see how that goes here. Hope all you guys have been doing well with the coronavirus and staying safe and getting homework done and all that kind of stuff from home. So a couple weeks ago, Nathan shared from Jesus from the perspective of Pilate. And basically Pilate met Jesus and he couldn't deny who Jesus was and who Jesus is. He's the truth. Pilate had to wash his hands and say, like, hey, this isn't on me. This man's life is not on me. Then last week, Nathan shared about Jesus from the perspective of Peter. And I believe the 3% from last week was, for unbelievers, sin points to death. But for disciples of Jesus, sin points to grace. And I think we're going to see another example of that to some degree this evening, but also just another Jesus from another perspective this evening. So I know Nathan just prayed, but I'd like to get in and dive into prayer one more time this evening. Dear God, thanks for this evening, and just thank you for your guidance and your wisdom, God. Just give me the words that you have for each of us here this evening, God. Thank you for guiding me through preparing for this as well. Just continue to give us wisdom and understanding of your word, and in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So before I get started, in my spare time, I like to do a lot of YouTube video watching. Usually I watch videos on things that move, things that people build, things that take fine craftsmanship. Anything I'm started watching videos of people who make nice watches and how expensive watches can be. But one night I got into this string of the next recommended video. Like the third one in was this video. Just give a little disclaimer: the names have been changed in the video and the facts have been changed to make it more entertaining. But still basically the same video. But it's a story about this kid. I'll call him Johnny. He's outside of his school. He's selling chocolate, and this lady walks up and starts talking to him, and he's kind of looking around like, what's going on? This lady wasn't talking about buying chocolate. She was just kind of talking, and she asks him, hey, how old are you? And then without waiting for a response, she says, hi, I'm 10. And Johnny's like, what? What's going on? She keeps going in this character's voice, and Johnny is not understanding what's happening at all. And then this lady drops this line that this character that she's acting out, a line that this character says all the time. So John recognized that voice right away, and he goes, oh, hey, that's a great impression of this cartoon character. And what he doesn't know is that this lady's actually the voice behind that cartoon character, and he's got no idea. So he asked her to do another impression. And she goes, well, do you know the guy who actually does the voice of that character? And Johnny's like, no, why would I know? Oh, you're the... And he just freezes. I don't know if I'm too old to say it, but he couldn't even, you don't even understand. He just stopped. And then it kind of dawned on him hey, I can ask this lady for an autograph and get a picture of her to prove that I know who she is and that she knows who I am. So he gets this autograph, and that story kind of reminded me of where we're going this evening, and it's because he couldn't ask her for the autograph until he understood who she was. And the passage tonight that we're going into, if you guys don't want to grab your Bibles, you guys are probably watching on your phones, so you probably can't get your Bible app open on your phone, so grab a Bible, open up the computer website to get the Bible on your computer. While you guys are getting that stuff out, we're diving into Jesus from the perspective of the two thieves on the cross. And I'm going to wait for just a minute here, unless you guys get your Bibles. We're going into Luke 23 this evening, verses 32 to 46. And I'll say that again before we get going. But get your Bibles, Luke 23, 32 to 46. I'm going to pull up my Bible app on my phone here as well. But what we're looking at for this evening, the 3% this evening is to believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and choose to follow him. If you guys wanted to write that down, I'll say that one more time. Believe that Jesus is who he says he is, then choose to follow him. So where are we at in the story? Pastor Nathan talked a few times, the last couple times, about Jesus from the perspective of Pilate. So Jesus had been arrested. He was hanging out with his friends in the garden praying, and he gets arrested. Pilate gives him a trial, passes him on to Herod because Pilate doesn't want to deal with him, and Herod sends him back to Pilate, and Pilate washes his hands of this and says, his life isn't on me. Then he goes back to, basically Pilate hands him off to the people, and that's where the story of Peter kicks in, where Peter denies him 3 times. And now we're picking up pretty much from there where Jesus is coming in. Well, I'll just read it here. Luke 23, 32. So, it says, 2 others who were criminals were led away to be put to death with him. And when they came to the place that is called the Skull, there they crucified him, and the criminals, one on his right and one on his left. And Jesus said, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. And they cast lots to divide his garments. And the people stood by watching, but the rulers scoffed at him, saying, He saved others, let him save himself. If he's the Christ of God, the chosen one, pay attention to that. You'll see that again. He saved others, let him save himself. Then it says, the soldiers also mocked him, coming up and offering him sour wine and saying, If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself. So there it is again. There was also an inscription over him, This is the King of the Jews. One of the criminals who were hanging railed at him, saying, Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us. It says he railed at him. I don't know if you guys have ever been walking down the hallway at school or seen somebody getting just yelled at, and it's kind of like the idea of like railing on someone, where you're just verbally abusing him, kind of. And when I read this, I was like, what would he? It's hard to rail on Jesus, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." I couldn't quite read that as that, but what I was thinking is, this guy's railing on Jesus, and that's kind of like the mic drop. That's the line that you remember from what this guy is screaming. So if you've ever seen somebody getting yelled at in the hallway, you always remember the one line that they finished with, or the one big slam that they got. And this is the line that's recorded in the Bible. It says, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." Then it goes on to the second criminal, and the second one says, but the other rebuked him, saying, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward for our deeds. But this man has done nothing wrong." Criminal number 2 is like, "Dude, shut up. Don't say that. Aren't you afraid of God?" He's like, "We're all going to die soon and have to answer to God. And we're guilty. This guy's not guilty. We're guilty, so we're going to have to stand before God and give him an answer. And here you are mocking his son. What are you doing? That's a bad idea. But this guy's not guilty. Remember that." So then he turns to Jesus and he says, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And Jesus said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about the 6th hour, and there was darkness over the whole land until the 9th hour, while the sun's light failed, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. Then Jesus, calling out with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I commit my spirit." And having said this, he breathed his last. So at that point, Jesus had died. So, so who are these 2 criminals? That's the first thing I thought after I read this. Who are these 2 guys? Why are they hanging up on the cross with him? And there's not a lot that the Bible tells us. In Mark, it tells us that they are they're rebels. If you look at the NIV version, they're called thieves. Luke calls them criminals. So I looked up, what kind of people would be going to the cross, would be crucified. Basically, it's reserved for like slaves or non-Roman citizens, so people living in Rome that weren't Roman citizens, or pretty much like the lowliest of Roman citizens, like people who just barely made the scale to be a Roman citizen. So pretty low on the totem pole people, or people visiting from other places or living there from other places. And they pretty much reserved it for like pretty bad stuff. And they did it as a way to show the people in the town or in the city what not to do, because it would take sometimes like 2 or 3 days for these guys to die on the cross. So it gave the whole town a long time to see, like, hey, I'm not going to do that. So basically, these guys are not good guys. They did something bad enough that deserved the punishment of death, and the worst death that they had at the time, the most excruciating death at the time of being crucified. So, bad dudes, not the kind of people you want to model your lives after. And these thieves, they had pretty much had one last choice to make each. They're hanging out there, and they decide what they're going to do at their final moments. The first thief said what he was going to say. He railed against Jesus, and he said, "Save yourself and us. Hello, don't forget about us. Save me." Trying to, I don't know, I guess he said what he said to try to serve himself, to get himself off the cross, to make himself feel better, and to maybe even save his own life if he gets lucky. It was easy to be mad. It was easy for him to be defiant. He's hanging up on this cross about to die, and he's lashing out against the people around him to kind of make one last stand. So that's what he did. At first I was like, that's like a really dumb thing to do. But then I thought about, okay, my own life. If I mess up just a little bit, what do? I do tend to make excuses pretty easy. Try to stand up for myself and put others, maybe not put others down, but kind of pass the blame on to somebody else. So I don't know, when you get caught messing up, even something small, like you break something, you don't get your homework in on time, you run a stop sign, you get a speeding ticket, whatever it is, and you get caught. What do you do? I don't know, when you guys, my natural response is to pass the blame to somebody else. Say, it's not my fault, I had a good reason. You made it way too hard. It wasn't my fault because you made it too hard. It was icy, so I slipped through the intersection. I was in a hurry, right? And it's not my fault. It's natural to want to do what's easy. And to make ourselves look better. To keep that straight face. I'm guessing that the thief on the cross probably had, is it still working? We're good? Okay. I'm guessing that the first thief on the cross that was railing against Jesus, I'm guessing that he had probably some friends in the crowd that were there to see him go, and he was probably, I can picture him trying to make kind of one last stand, to die with honor in front of his friends, continue to be tough, to hold up his reputation of being the guy who goes against the flow, kind of. But then thief number two, he did things differently. In his last moments, he had a few moments left on the cross before he died. And what did he do with those? He believed that Jesus was who he said he was. And the evidence for that is that he looks at what Jesus says here, and he says, or what he said to Jesus. He said, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." So he believed that Jesus had a kingdom. He believed that Jesus was going there and that he was the ruler of that kingdom. So he believed that Jesus is who he says he is. So I thought, well, who did Jesus say he is in the Bible? There's a lot of scripture in the Bible that talks about who did Jesus say he is. A few of them, just for quick reference, it says he's the Son of God. He is equal to his Father. And if you know Jesus, you know the Father. It says he's the way, the truth, and the life, and no one gets to the Father except through him. And criminal too believe that. If you look up to where the second criminal responds to the first criminal, and he admits his own guilt, and he humbles himself, and he says, "Do you not fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed justly, for we are receiving the due reward for our deeds." So basically, we're getting what we deserve based on what we did. So he's saying, "I'm guilty." And then he trusted Jesus by saying, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." Basically, he asked Jesus to remember him to save him. That made me think of, there's a lot of times growing up where my dad talked about doing things with wisdom, listening to wisdom, and the difference between who you listen to for that wisdom as well. The Bible talks about different types of wisdom. There's earthly wisdom, which people say, this is how you get ahead in life, and then there's godly wisdom that says, this is how you do things for the kingdom of God, for God's benefit, instead of for your own. If you guys all want to turn your Bibles to James 3, 13 to 17. So So we'll go to James 3. James 3:13 to 17. And it says this. It says, "Who is wise and understanding among you? By his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom. But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth. This is not the wisdom that comes down from above, but is earthly, unspiritual, demonic. For where jealousy and selfish ambition exist, there will be disorder and every vile practice. But the wisdom from above, from God, is first pure and peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere." So it talks about the difference between wisdom from above and earthly wisdom. And it goes so far as to say that earthly wisdom is unspiritual and demonic. It's like one of those wow, that escalated quickly moments where I was reading that and I went, this is not wisdom that comes down from above, but it's earthly, unspiritual, and demonic. Like jumps to a whole other level there. Basically, this verse is saying that the actions of criminal one were selfish. He's looking out for his own self. When you look at that, it says, right up here, it says, "But if you have bitter jealousy and selfish ambition in your hearts, do not boast and be false to the truth." So selfish ambition, this is wisdom that comes down. This is not wisdom that comes down from above. Basically, criminal one had selfish ambition, and that's evidence that he was using earthly wisdom in his last final moments on earth. He had some choices to make, and he used the wrong kind of wisdom. Criminal number two, who feared God. He said, "Don't you fear God?" Obviously, he had a fear for God. He admitted his guilt, like we talked about before. He was sincere with Jesus. He was also peaceable. He was calming down the other guy so that there was peace at the moment. And he was submissive, which is another word for meekness, where it talks about it here. It says, by his good conduct, let him show his works in the meekness of wisdom, or in the submissiveness of wisdom, submitting to Jesus. And it says that this is wisdom from above, and it's wisdom from God. This is something that criminal number two got. He understood it. He recognized that Jesus is who he said he was, and he used wisdom from God to find the narrow gate. I think in Matthew 7, let's go to Matthew 7 too. In Matthew 7, it talks about the narrow gate and the wide gate, and who goes through each gate, and the differences there as well. So it's Matthew 7. Give you guys a minute to get to Matthew 7. And then verse 13 and 14. Matthew 7, 13 and 14. It says, "Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide, and the way is easy that leads to destruction. And those who enter by it are many. For the gate is narrow, and the way is hard that leads to life. And those who find it are few." We talked earlier about how criminal number one, the first one who railed against Jesus, was kind of doing what came natural, it came easy. This says that the gate is wide and the way is easy that leads to destruction. But the gate is narrow and the way is hard that leads to life. I'm guessing for criminal number two, it's probably pretty tough to say what he says and do what he did as he's up on the cross, basically, and all those people are watching him die. It's not something that's easy to do. It's challenging because you won't find the gate looking out for yourself. Like the part of the verse on wisdom was talking about was saying that selfish ambition is wisdom from the earth, and that's not where you want to go. So it's challenging because you're not going to find the gate looking out for yourself. You cannot. The Bible talks about you can't serve God and money. You can't have two masters. You can't serve yourself, and you can't serve God at the same time. Either you love one or you hate the other, as it says in Matthew 6:24. The criminals on the cross only got one last choice in this story. We are lucky because we get the option or the privilege to choose God every day. We get to choose Him in every action that we have. And believe it or not, the Bible does say that we're all sinners. Basically, we're all like those criminals on the cross. I have to make that choice every day to be like criminal number 2 and say, God, I messed this up. I failed in this area. Can you be with me? And I failed, you will too. But like the 3% last week said, I want to go back to that 3% from last week. That 3% last week said that for unbelievers, sin points to death. But for disciples of Jesus, for people who believe that Jesus is who he says he is, sin points to grace. So I'm thankful for the grace that we get to have the opportunity to choose Jesus every day. So that if we mess up, we can choose him again the next time. And that Jesus gives us grace to do that. Criminals only got one chance. If you've never chosen Jesus, please don't wait to do that. Ask him to remember you in his kingdom. Tell him that you've messed up, that you've sinned. Ask him to forgive you. And I want to encourage you guys tonight, if you have chosen to follow Jesus, remember to keep choosing him. You'll mess up along the way. God gives us grace for that. Choose him in everything that you do. We get the privilege to choose God each and every day with every decision that we make. So continue to remember to choose him and choose him in everything that you do. And fear God. Continuing to admit when you're wrong. Continue to ask Jesus to guide you and continue to spend time with him. If you have any questions about any of that stuff, call us, text us, message us on Facebook, get a hold of us, grab us from 6 feet away, and ask us those questions if you have any questions about what that looks like in your own life. I think some of the small group questions will dive into that a little bit. Some of the deep dive might dive into that a little further as well. But otherwise, that's all I have for you guys this evening. Just remember that, like I said, in 3% there, believe that Jesus is who he says he is, and choose to follow him. Why don't we pray? Dear God, thanks for this evening. Thanks for the word you've given us this evening, and I pray that you would help us to understand and apply that to our lives each and every day. It's in your name that I pray. Amen. Last announcements, yes.
Check in with small groups.
What?
Check in with small groups.
Check in with your small groups, and with checking in with small groups, I don't have several of your guys' phone numbers or contact info, so for my small group, text me. Phone number 701-230-1650. Do it again. 701-230-1650. You got it.
To everyone.
To everyone, yeah.
So that's just for my small group.
Just for Eric's small group. My small group.
Close your ears.
Some of you guys haven't responded yet. Get back to us. Other than that, what? Down?
No, you're fine.
Mackenzie's giving me a. Okay. Hey, thanks for joining us. Check in with your small group. That's all I got. We'll have more for you tomorrow. Bye.
Guys listening to this on YouTube, sorry it wasn't live streamed. So apparently with YouTube, we can no longer live stream unless I update my entire phone. So not like software update. I'm talking I need to go out and buy a new phone for it. So that probably won't be happening on this channel. Thanks.